What a world, you now listening to Talka Brothas podcast.
Welcome to the Talka Brothas podcast.
Allow me to reintroduce myself.
Talka Brothas podcast.
Talka Brothas.
Talka Brothas.
Talka Brothas podcast with Smash and Go D.
Go D and Smash, you guys doing your thing.
The mic is contacted, I attract clientele.
My brother.
Go D and Smash, Talka Brothas.
That's poppin'.
We ain't worried about nothing.
Y'all are now listening to Talka Brothas podcast.
What's happening, everybody? It's your boy Go D.
And it's your boy Smash coming at you.
Want to welcome you guys to another episode of Talka Brothas podcast. Smash, we're about to do something that we swore that we would not do.
Liars.
But because it was such a what would you call it? A historic event, I would guess.
Historic, momentous. Yeah, it's definitely historic though.
Okay.
Definitely.
So we're gonna talk a little politics. So for all the listeners and the viewers, you'll get this every 4 years, maybe longer, and we'll discuss. We want to discuss a little politics because this historic event being that we're gonna have our first woman and African American vice president. Yep. And so we got a good panelist here. We got a good group of people here to discuss it. I'm kind of, not really that much on politics. So, when you can't do it yourself, bring in the experts. And I think we have the experts to take care of that. But, how your week been, bro?
Man, it's been a Monday, I tell you that. No, it's been a long week already. So, but the weekend was good. With the historic event that happened. So it's been good, man. What about you?
Pretty good, man. Pretty good. I'm trying to transition back into going into that office.
Right.
So it's been it's been tough, bro. It's been tough. So getting back into the groove of commuting is really the problem. It's really not working. It's just the commute that's a real hang up. Like, why am I doing this? But other than that, man, it's been a great week. I'm glad the election turned out the way that it did. And hopefully we can see brighter days from this point, So
hopefully.
Yeah. So let's go ahead and jump in and bring our guests in here and get this show started, man. I'm excited to hear their thoughts and their opinions and hear the bright spots that we can look forward to in this next 4 years in this new administration. Welcome, everybody. How you guys doing?
100.
So we have, like I said, we have Gio from Ballas Union from our brother podcast,
Yep.
sports expert, political aficionado. We have Janira Clark from the Latino Resources. How are you?
I'm good. Thank you for having me.
And of course, our brother of the pod, Ron Walker. How are you?
I'm good. Glad to be on again.
Appreciate it. I thank you guys for taking time out and sharing this moment with us and picking up where I know that my expertise doesn't lie. So I'm relying on you guys to I guess we can celebrate and also congratulate and I guess we can be optimistic going forward from this point, with the new administration coming in. First thing I want to do is start off and give me a little background on yourselves. Janita, go ahead and give me a little background on who you are and what you are.
Sure. I mean, I'm a woman of many places. I grew up in Texas and joined the military from there. I lived in North Carolina. I've lived in Maryland. I've lived in China. I've lived in Japan. Kind of had a little bit of everything. Right now I'm in Illinois. A few of the things that I've done, so I was actually in the Democratic Party of Evanston. I was in the executive board for, I want to say 5 years, and deputy committee woman of Evanston for 1 year. Unfortunately, like the towards the end of my tenure were the darker days of the Democrats. But now I am leading the Latino Resources, which is really pushing for Latinx youth to become our next wave of leadership in this country, to really be able to grow and participate, because they are also a part of this country, and so they also should have equal representation.
Okay. And Ron, give us a little backstory on yourself.
I'm Ron Walker, author, speaker, entrepreneur, pastor, proud resident of Clayton County, Georgia.
Yes, sir.
I don't like to call myself a politician, but I'm definitely a social advocate. Ran for office recently. I'll run again soon. But I'm very glad that Georgia turned blue for the first time in a long time, and happy that Clayton County was a big part of doing that.
Yes, it was. So I want to, Gio, we want to introduce you, man. Everybody know who you are, bro. So you just here. You're a friendly face. But I want to jump into this thing real quick, because I really want to get really some highlights of what you guys thought. So we're gonna do this thing called expected, unexpected, good idea. Okay. So with that being, thinking of this election, what came out of it that you expected? What came out of it that was unexpected? And what good ideas did you get from hearing these politicians? I mean, Democrat and Republican, that you think will help us propel us into the next 4 years in this term. Anybody can jump in and start.
All right. I unexpected Biden winning because he flipped a couple of red states that have been red states forever, and that's how he won. Expected if Trump lost, he's going to act the way he's acting. And a good idea, well, I wasn't really fighting Biden or Trump that much. Neither one of them shows any interest to my community or my culture. But a good idea will be Stacey Abrams getting a high position in the cabinet.
I like that. Okay. Smash.
Yeah.
Oh, go ahead.
I'll go next. So expected. I'll echo Gio's on that. Seeing Donald Trump, I think this is something that we all knew was going to happen. Is he was going to continue what he's been doing for his entire life in creating his own reality and pushing his own reality, and saying, it wasn't a secret. He said that he was going to declare victory despite what happened, and so he did. So that was expected. What I found was unexpected was, there was no blue wave, there was no red wave, there was an American wave. Yeah. I mean, the incredible amount of people that came out to vote was insane. And that's what it should be like every time. Every time people should come out in these numbers. And I thought that was exhilarating, really. It was exhilarating, it was exciting. And hopefully we'll continue to see, these types of numbers and engagement moving forward. The good idea was, so when they finally announced that Joe Biden was the president-elect, they showed a picture of Kamala and her husband in the park. And I was thinking, in that moment, I was like, that's awesome, because that's America. You know what I mean? They're in the park in their sweats, and this is where she finds out, and they're excited. And, it wasn't this ridiculous staged glamour shot, leave it to Beaver kind of moment. It was, it was real. It was genuine. It's, mixed races. It's, different. It was just, I think that's the moment when I shed a tear. The whole time I was pretty collected. And then in that moment, when they showed that picture, I was, and he was like, congratulations, I was just like, yeah, I lost it. I was like, that's really what we aspire to, that's really what we aspire to see.
Exactly. That candid moment, just to catch them in that
Exactly.
raw moment of, okay, in that surprise. You got a genuine, not that canned response we always get when somebody wins or loses. I definitely enjoyed that as well. Definitely. What about you, Ron?
Similar to everybody else, definitely expected Mr. Trump to act the way he is, because that's how he is. That's how he's always been, and that's how he'll always be. He makes a spectacle of everything. I don't think he knows how to do anything else.
Right.
But I'm very surprised that Georgia turned blue. I've been looking for farmland recently. Like last time I was on here, I told you we have to become more self-sustaining and independent.
Right.
So I'm looking for some farmland. So I've been driving around more rural areas of Georgia, getting outside of Metro Atlanta. And everywhere I go, there's Trump pence, huge signs, like hanging out of windows, all over everything. Atlanta is blue.
Right.
Georgia is red.
Right.
So I am completely surprised that the whole state finally turned blue, because we know Black people are centralized in certain areas of Georgia. We don't really venture out. My wife right now is quiet in the house because my wife is gone. But it's the truth. She is in Forsyth County.
Oh, wow.
And I told her that I had to drive around to go find something to eat. I said, you in kind of Klan country, so you might want to hunker down when the sun goes down. And it's sad that in 2020 we still say that.
Right.
Whether it's a joke or the truth, there are still parts of this country that are dominated by the Klan, and sadly, they've shown great support for the current, soon to be ex-president. So I'm very surprised that we turned blue down here. And as far as good ideas, I don't know yet. I'm waiting to see. I know there's been a change of authority, but I'm not sure if there's been a change of power yet. We still have the same type of regime in power, in my opinion.
Right.
But I hope that Kamala will do something different and be able to really show a new type of presence. But I'm just gonna wait and see.
Right. About you, Smash?
I expected Biden to win. Not kind of like he did, but I was expected. The unexpected was the same, like Ron was saying, to turn Georgia blue, because it's been red like pretty much all my life, far as I know. So I was actually surprised. And speaking of that, I hope you checking on your wife, because she really is in Klan capital. But some of the wants is really like two things I really want is Trump to lead peacefully. Don't cause no mess.
Too late.
Don't challenge this in the courts.
Too late.
And I hope that I really want this election to bring back a little bit of, I'll say a little bit of unity, because I don't think it's been so ruptured that I don't think we can bring it all the way back, even in these 4 years. So I want them to bring back some unity, because right now, this Republican Democrat thing, it seemed like the Bloods and the Crips to me.
Absolutely.
It's just like you got to choose a gang, and you just really against that side.
Right.
And some of the good ideas, and this is kind of in the future, but it's a good idea, and what I'm hoping that Joe Biden does do is his trek for making HBCUs and college affordable. So that's what I'm hoping. It's a good idea, but I wanted to see it come through to fruition.
Right. That's good. I guess for me, the unexpected would be, expected for me was, I truly expected Joe Biden and Kamala Harris to actually win this election. I expected, one, because we're in times of COVID right now, and I knew it was going to be a high demand for people to just go out and do the write-in votes and do the mail-in votes. And I knew that was going to stop him from, whether we can prove it or not, stop him from being able to cheat to win the election, and for everybody to have the fortitude to be able to allow the votes to continue to be counted. You're right, because he wanted them to come in and vote on day of, whereas the Democrats were saying, look, protect yourself, mail in your votes, and your votes will be counted. So that was my expected, and I expected it. Now I didn't. My unexpected was, just like Ron and just like Smash, I didn't expect Georgia to turn blue. I expected us to have a great showing, but I didn't expect it to turn out the way that it did. I'm proud of the Atlanta metropolitan area. I'm proud of all the sectors where it's a high population of us, where we got out and vote and made the difference. When you watch CNN and all these other news outlets, you can see the rural areas are all red, but you see where that the majority of the biggest population of Atlanta, it was blue, and I'm really proud of that. I'm excited, and I hope that translates into us being able to permeate that across the state, across the southern states, because we look at that map, all the southern states were red, all of them. There was not one that wasn't red, and that's just where it's been through history. So big kudos to Georgia for that. My good idea is the same thing with Smash. I definitely want to see him put his money where his mouth is, to be able to get these HBCUs to where may not be on the level as the PWIs, but be able to have the same trying to cachet when those kids put that on their resume. I would love to see that go a little lower. I'm big on starting from grassroots. How can a kid get to that HBCU if they can't get a good meal, a good education, a good, healthy, safe surrounding growing up in wherever we're coming from? So I would love to see that, trickle down a little bit more on the grassroots levels and watch that blossom. But with that being said, did you feel a big women's power in this election? Do you think women played a big role in winning this election? And how did you think that? Did you expect Georgia to turn out in the numbers that they turned out? And I really want to jump to Ron real quick. What do you think was the thing that catapulted this to happen in this election?
Honestly, as was mentioned, this whole COVID thing, with the convenience, like we've always joked in the past, I believe, if it's raining out, black people aren't going to vote. If it's any mild inconvenience, black people generally don't show up at the polls. But with COVID, with Trump, period, with everything that we've seen over the past 4 years, I think people just finally got to the point where enough was enough. It didn't matter if they had to wait in line for 4 hours. If they didn't get that ballot mailed in, they were going to stand in line and they were going to cast their vote and be heard. Because if he did nothing else, he made it known that our voice is important. Through all his craziness, the fact that Georgia could have been won last time based on the amount of black people that didn't show up to vote, we made sure that did not happen again this time. Right. And we actually showed up and proved that there's enough of us here to really unite, band together, and get our voices heard. We've talked about like Stacey Abrams and what she did because of the wrong that she had to endure. She made sure that wrong was not going to continue to be a constant. And that's what we have to do as a people, I believe. When we see injustice, we have to stand up, no matter how it hurts us. We have to stand up and make sure that other people coming behind us are now empowered so those same issues don't continue to be problems. Right. And I'm grateful for everything she did, and every other female, every male, everybody that really got up and got out. But as you said, I think there were a lot of women that pushed everything. Because I know on social media, I always see women posting, and I think a lot of times women will make us get up and do a little bit more. Because as guys, we'll get a PS5, we'll get an Xbox, we'll get whatever, and we'll spend all day playing a video game. But let our wife walk in, let a woman walk in, immediately you start putting stuff down. And what you say now? No, I ain't been here all day long. No, I ain't been playing this all day. You know, you just start straightening some stuff up, cleaning something to prove that I've been doing something. And that's what we did this year with this vote. We had to get up and say, we're a part of this as well. And we're doing something. There's no more games. We're serious. And we got this man out of office.
Yeah, amen to that. Janira?
You know, it's one of those things that, you know, I mean, obviously I'm elated about, you know, how the turnout in Georgia, but I just, at the same time, you know, I have a healthy amount of skepticism because, you know, these things are fleeting. I mean, I was in North Carolina when Barack Obama ran, you know, for the first time. And I mean, I was also there when John Kerry ran. So the difference was stark, you know, like Obama showed up, you know, and gave a speech at the university. And I mean, you could hear it like miles away. You could, like, people standing outside. I stood in line to vote for, you know, with my 3-year-old daughter, I stood in line to vote. I mean, it was like 4 or 5 hours that we stood there, you know, and you had volunteers coming through and giving people water and, you know, doing stuff like that. But, you know, it was insane. But then how did North Carolina turn out this time? You know what I mean? Right. So it can be fleeting. And so it is really important to really maintain that power of unity at the forefront, and that message that you know, we do belong here, we do have a voice, this is ours to take, you know, this is ours, because it can easily be lost, you know. Right. Not to be a Debbie Downer, sorry.
Gio?
Yes, I would like to emphasize that the black woman came out and showed up in that area and end up turning Georgia blue. So they were a big part of it. Like I stated earlier, Stacey Abrams was a big part of it. And just basically the turnout, you know, saying everybody came out, showed up, and then that's what overturned Georgia from being red to blue. Was that area. Obviously COVID played a factor in it. The mail-in votes definitely helped out a lot. My only issues with that is certain states need to learn how to count faster. Because yeah, that was just too long for me. That's my only complaint about mail-in votes, is that it took too long for certain states to count. It didn't make no sense to me.
Right. Well, you got to kind of give them a pass. We hadn't done this in over 20 plus years. So you're thinking about people who were used to counting these votes, or now you got a whole new group of people that didn't. So we do take mail-in votes. Okay, so it was a learning process. I'm more than sure for those polls. I'm sure, bro. I'm trying to give them a pass.
Pass. Texas did it. Come on, North Carolina, Nevada. You got half the people of Texas.
But our voting system is a little antiquated too. So.
Yeah, and even the lady, I forgot what the lady's position was in Georgia. She even said it herself that this mail-in thing was like foreign land for them because they hadn't done it in 20 plus years. So they wanted to make sure they took their time to make sure it was done right, because they knew how Trump and his administration would act if they got it wrong. So it was better for them to go slow and get it right than try to speed it up to appease the geos, you know. So it was
they should have counted early then.
There were some other issues involved as well. We had a storm, power outages, there were water outages, there was a lot of other issues going on as well that kind of delayed things. But I mean, if they would have had those, you know, old deacons and trustees out there counting, it would have been done the same day.
Oh yeah.
So you saying Jesus delayed the count?
Oh Lord. Oh gosh.
Hey, apparently he had to have been involved.
Hey. What about you, Smash? How do you think the women played a major role in this election?
I think the women did play a big role in it, a major role. I mean, women saw something that that they wanted to see. They want to see a woman in power, in charge, and even a lot of us guys have been wanting women to be in charge. So even if they didn't want to really vote for Biden, they were voting for Kamala. You know what I mean? So I think that the minority votes, but definitely the women played a major part in this. So, yeah.
I agree. If you're definitely a fan of the show and you follow the show, we've been chronicling this for like over a year on how this from the city level from the state level, on how women have been positioning themselves into government. And when we always ask that question, we kept asking that question: when will a woman take a leadership role and be able to give them a feminine, young ladies that are aspiring to be politicians and get to civic duties to have somebody that look like them. Now, I didn't think that it would happen this fast. Like we talked about this like last year, right, Smash? And then all of a sudden it comes to fruition now. So I'm glad that we're getting past that. We got our first Black president. Now we got our first, female vice president. So now we're starting to get these first, and that's what we need to start hearing. These first start happening. So once we get past that, we can get further on. Now we can get back to the agenda. Next topic, I really want to really focus on not what Trump did. I really want to focus on now on what can we expect going into this new regime. As far as I want to start off with taxes, because this was a sticky issue. And this was a really sticky issue between us as African Americans. And I can't speak for the Latino community, but it was a really sticky situation where you had people that were wealthy, that were giving their votes to Trump because they wanted to keep money in their pocket versus giving it to Biden. And that really didn't sit well with me. So I really want to get you guys' thoughts on how do you think that faction will play out? Will we be able to bring that type of people back to us? Because now that he's lost, and these people that I'm speaking of, they do have influence. They do have influence over our communities. And how do we get them to accept it and move forward? Go ahead, Jill.
I'm never a fan of you overtax a certain group of people. He wants to overtax the rich. He wants to, whatever the number, I don't know the exact number. Let's say he wants to tax the rich 50% and the poor 20%, which to me, it doesn't seem fair. And then everyone else will be like, well, that is fair because they're rich. They got more money to give or whatever. And it's like, so for me being successful, I should give out more money for you not being successful. I know it sounds harsh, but that's how I look. I'm all for a flat tax. Like you just charge everybody, whatever the number be, 20%, 25%, 30%, just across the board, a flat tax regardless of your bracket. That's what I'm in favor for, and that's the only way I can see it fair, because it doesn't encourage people to do better. It doesn't encourage people to reach the next plateau. You know what I'm saying? All it does is encourage people to find loopholes and ways not to pay taxes, which, a la Donald Trump.
I'm sorry. I just the tax hole loop code, like the loopholes in the tax code are why, accountants get paid so much money, because I don't think that a graduated income tax is a loophole. The reality is that, different jobs have different weights, right? In terms of monetizing them, right? So you can't say, oh, well, a waitress is going to make the same amount of money as a doctor, right? But that doesn't mean that waitress, or a server, isn't providing value to the community, isn't providing, and it's not just that server, it's also the bartender, it's also the artist. It's also the, the social worker. It's also, all of these people provide very important services that not just, keep our communities running, but really breathe culture and, make our lives more vibrant. And to leave them in the lurch because, they can't make the same amount of money as another person providing a different kind of service. I think I disagree. I don't think it's right. And so what a graduated income tax does is it says that I know that, if I tax $5 out of your $100, it's going to impact you more than if I, do 5% out of, $1 million, because what are you going to do with that extra 5%? If you pay in taxes that extra 5%, does that mean that you don't take your kids to Disney World? Does that mean that you don't get to pay your electricity bill? Because for a lot of Americans, that 5% is that difference between being able to pay your electricity. It is that difference between being able to go to the grocery store and buy vegetables, So to say that, oh, well, they're not successful, therefore they don't rate or they don't merit, I disagree with that vehemently.
So you're for or against?
I am for a graduated income tax.
Okay.
I do think that people over a certain threshold should pay a higher percentage of their income.
How is that fair though?
Yeah, because I gotta jump on with Gio. I know I've been in positions where I've made, a good amount of money, and I've gotten tax bills, and they're like, you owe us $60,000, $70,000. And I'm looking at what I made, and I'm like, well, I might as well have just worked some regular job instead of taking the risks I did as an entrepreneur to employ other people, to do all the things that I've done. It really seems unfair that I have to give way more money than someone else that made less than I did when they didn't take the risk I did, when they didn't make the sacrifices I do, when they don't put in the same thing I do. It doesn't take the same thing to show up at McDonald's as it does to employ 30 people and make sure that all their households are being fed, and then making sure mine eats too.
I will say that you don't know what you don't know. You can't presume to understand what all of these Americans are going through, and you can't presume to understand what their living situation is or who they have to support or what, I know plenty of people who, are supporting their parents, their siblings, also going to college. And so, yeah, I don't think that, someone who, I hear what you're saying. I don't think that I'm like completely blind to what you're saying, because yeah, you did, to be an entrepreneur is risk. It's by definition is risk. And you do have to hustle, you do have to work hard, and you put a lot of blood, sweat, and tears into it. But that's not to say that other people are not also putting blood, sweat, and tears into what they're doing. And just because they're not making as much as you, they should somehow be penalized for it.
No, the penalization is actually the other way.
Yeah, we ain't saying
but
we're
that's the thing, though.
them.
You're not being that's what I'm saying. Like, what is it taking from you? Like, what is that?
A lot of money.
right. Obviously, there's no perfect solution. There's never a perfect solution. And regardless of which way things slice, there's always going to be this sliver of people who are going to be caught right in the middle. Right, that's the plight of middle America. That's the plight of the middle class. Because we're stuck right in the middle, to where we make just enough to get taxed more, right? because our nation has a graduated income tax. That's just, and so yeah, I mean, it's something that I used to hear my dad complain about all the time. He used to have to like do the mental math to see how many hours he could work overtime before he hit that threshold, So, I mean, I do understand. But I mean, in the larger scheme of things, there are way more Americans that are hurting than there are people that are prospering. Right. And so...
Not to cut you out, but it's not like our taxes is helping those Americans that are hurting. They're just taking our money.
Yeah.
They're just taking it and putting it like under the mattress.
No, they're going to wherever, to the golf course. They're taking jets to whatever. They're in court. It don't matter who the president is. They're always at the court side. You know what I'm saying? They're at the Super Bowl.
I think that's part of the problem. I think if people could see where their taxes was going, or they could have a choice to say, okay, if you're going to tax me, can you put it here? Like put it in these schools, put it in whatever, like, so that way they have a choice so they can see that their money is worth something. I'm kind of split the fence. Like I'm not really worried about it because I'm not in that tax bracket to be taxed like that. So it doesn't really hurt me like that. But if I was, I would feel like Gio and Ron. So that's why I split the fence. When I get up there to make that 400K or plus, then I'll be right here with y'all arguing the same point.
Yeah. But see, the problem is, like Gio said, when you make a lot of money and you know that you're going to get taxed hard for it, you end up pushing a lot more money to a good CPA that can find a way around it. But that's why you have a lot of super rich people that barely pay anything.
Oh, that was me. That was my point.
But
that rich people invented the loophole.
Right. I'm kind of on the fence. I understand both sides, but I kind of tend to lean with Janira a little bit because the margin of error for the common American is slim to none. If they were to get sick or get ill, then they can hit poverty immediately. Whereas where somebody who's rich in that 400K plus range, your margin of error is more cushiony for you.
You'd be surprised.
But we know how it goes. The rich you are, the more you have, the more you spend.
The more you spend, yeah.
So not always that. I know a lot of people that make a lot of money, but they have a lot at stake as well. Mm-hmm. So like when COVID hit, I had a lot of people that I know that went belly up. They lost whole businesses because they employ so many people. They have so many expenses that 400,000 feels like 30 or 40,000.
Right.
But Ron, you have going out.
But Ron,
so imagine how that 30,000 felt.
Right. It trickled down. Even though that business went out of business, that it was a trickle down effect. Mm-hmm. So when he lost his business, employees lost their jobs.
Correct.
And he still had, I'm more than sure he had something to fall on. Whereas that cashier or that barista, that check was nothing. Like they're homeless. There has nothing. There was nothing to fall back onto. So it's a sticky situation. And it's something that really needs to be addressed. And it's not just about taxation. We have to look at it in a bigger perspective going forward. And I hope that's something that they look at, not just because Democrats usually depend upon taxation. They think everything's, just like corporations. The first thing they decide to fire, we need to save some money. Let's start firing people. That's the first thing. Whether you can look at buying all these different coffees and coffee cups and tissue, trying to really work at trying to find a solution versus the obvious. And the obvious is just the tax versus just like corporations, just start laying people off to save a big chunk of money. So, I mean, I definitely, I love the ideas and the thoughts from both. And I feel for both. I definitely do. Because I aspire to be in that 400,000 range. And I will pay that tax graciously to have a $400,000 check clear at the end of the year. No problem.
You're not going to get a $400,000 check. You're going to bring home less money you bring in now.
Yeah, well, no, I won't. Let's get that understood. No, I won't.
But I mean, I understand both sides. Like I said, I've been on both sides, so it makes perfect sense. I've been that guy working as a supervisor, making $20,000 a year, but working 50 hours a week.
Yeah.
So I know what it feels like when you miss one check, and now how it can change your life tremendously. But the taxation part is where I disagree, because it's almost like you're being penalized for making more money. I won't say being more successful, but you're being penalized for making more money. I just feel like we need to kind of change how we're utilizing those tax dollars. If you look, I have stacks of books, budgets from different cities and different states. And if you go through there, you'll see $40 million being spent here on a police department, $60 million being spent where, you know, and you break it down, and a lot of that money never makes it back to the people.
Right.
That's why I was running. That's why I run. That's why I'm a community advocate, because I see where the money goes and it doesn't make it back to the community.
Right.
So I think that, you know, both you and Ron and Smash made a really, really great point, and I think that this has really been a problem. I mean, that's why the United States was created, right? Taxation without representation. And, you know, there has been, you know, the idea of participatory budgeting. I know here in Chicago, it's, you know, it's not uncommon for the constituents to know and understand, and in some cases actually do the due diligence themselves to say, you know, because this is our discretionary fund, this is what we can spend, you know, what is more important to us right now? Is it paving this road? Is it making, you know, putting emergency lights around this school? Is it, you know, what is it that we can do? Because, you know, similar to how Ron was talking about how his paycheck kind of like, you're like, oh, it sounded so big and now it's gone. It's the same way. It's the same way with you know, with a government budget. You know, you're like, okay, you know, like it sounds like a big number, but then when you break it up and you're looking at all of the different services that you have to provide, to the number of people that you have to provide it to, you know, the electricity bill that you have to pay for all of the government buildings, the upkeep, all of this stuff. I mean, you know, the Thompson Center here has been in disrepair for who knows how long, you know what I mean? And it's 16 floors of government workers that or not now, but you know, because it's COVID, they're not allowed in. But you know, yeah, so I can definitely understand that, and I mean, it's civic engagement, getting people, encouraging them, you know, because this is all public information, all of it, public information. You can go to the website and you can see the budget, you can see the different line items, and if you want to understand where this money is going or how it's happening, you can easily call, you know, and ask and be like, what is this? Like, help me understand what this is.
And you say that, I mean, and you're educating me on some of this stuff too, and I thank you guys for doing this. We speak of those line items. Is that just on a state level, or can you look at, we can't look at line items on the federal level? We can't see where every single dollar is going, whether it's going to the actual states, what's being funded to states, where we hear when at one point in time, if this didn't happen, we're gonna stop. The president said we're not going to give you these funding for your state funding. So I think that's the biggest problem. I think the local level, I think, like Ron says, he can see it. I can make a difference. You can see it. You can make a difference. But it's more on this national level, on federal level, that's where I think fraud, waste, and abuse is happening the most versus just on the state and local level. It happens there, but it's kind of happened like
close to nowhere.
Right. So it's kind of, where do we go from here with it? So I don't think there's a true answer. I'm really interested to hear more about Geo's with this flat tax thing. I want to see how that flat tax thing will benefit the rich and the poor.
Well,
benefit
the rich and the poor, because basically, like, if you make more money, you seem like you're getting punished for making more money. And so the flat taxes, everybody gets charged the same percentage. So it's not like if you're in this tax bracket, you get charged 5%, but if you're in this tax bracket, you get charged like 45%, and then that doesn't make, that's not fair. There's no way you can say that's fair. It's like it doesn't matter you're a millionaire or billionaire. You know what I'm saying? Just because I make more money doesn't mean, and like you said, the money is not going back to, now if the money was going back to the community, that's different. Mm-hmm. If you could say like, hey, since we charge you 45%, we're going to break down where we send your money to. Right. They're saying like, at least like here, since you VIP, you spent X amount of money, or we charge you X amount of percentage, here's a breakdown. They don't do none of that. You know what I'm saying? And then on top of that, even at the local level, or Chicago's just a bad example because every governor there is known for stealing the money.
Gio, you never want to go home, do you?
Oh, pessimist.
Yeah,
never want to go
but like, for example, is like the school system, they get X amount of money for each kid, right? But yet the inner city schools have more kids than, let's say, the so-called nice areas, but yet the nice area gets all the money and the inner city school gets no money. What they get is when the nice area done with their drums, or they're done with their computers, instead of throwing away, they just give them to the inner city kids.
Right. And that's go ahead, Smash. Go ahead. I know you had something to say.
No, I was just gonna be funny and just say, like, they've been teaching us this all our lives ever since we were little. I mean, you got Monopoly, you got Marvin Gardens, Pennsylvania, Park Place. Hey, you get that card, you get hit with those taxes, you got to pay like $100 per house or hotel. Like so that, I mean, you get taxed like that. They've been teaching us this all our life. They were preparing us.
Oh, that's property tax. That's different.
And that's something that I think that they really need to look at versus just a cookie cutter 49%, 50%. I think if you go out and buy that big, humongous plane, then a luxury tax. It should be luxury tax. Should
I'm okay with that.
Has to be weighted.
That's different. That's
different, and I'm okay with that.
Yeah,
strictly speaking on income tax.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, so
like,
I'm kind of like both places. Yeah, I agree with that. Moving on, let's get into more of the Biden policies. Things that what made you like. For me, I'm gonna be honest with you guys. I don't trust either one of them, to be honest with you. I'm just like taking the lesser of two evils. So, but what part of his agenda and his policies, that his promises, made you feel that, okay, this is the right move for me to make?
He wasn't Trump.
Okay, that's honest. That's honest.
That was it for me.
That's honest.
Seal the deal.
What about you, Janira?
He wasn't my first choice, and his agenda that he put forth is extremely lofty, and it's one of those things that right now, in this particular moment, I really do think that what the United States needed more than anything else is to be brought back to center. And that's really where he is. He's a centrist, and I think that that's what the country needed, to kind of be brought back to the center, because on both sides, you saw it, with.
So you're basically saying that he was Biden's actually the rebound date. He's not really the person. He's not really the girl that I really wanted. It's just the girl that I'm going to be with right now until I figure out what I really want.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah.
For layman's terms, okay.
That's exactly what he is, the rebound.
What about you, Gio?
I don't like Biden. I'm saying? I still got PTSD from the whole, Trump funded them.
From the 80s,
Biden wrote the bill, and Clinton enforced it. You know what I'm saying? And it scarred my childhood.
Yes. Yes, I'm with you on that.
Yeah, I didn't vote for neither one of those guys.
I didn't do that.
Yeah, I didn't vote for neither one of them. Yeah, I was going to vote for the birthday party, but it was not on my ballot.
So. The birthday party. Smash. What about you, bro? What made you want to go the way that you went in this election?
Kind of like you said earlier, it was the lesser of two evils, but with Biden, I'm not gonna say I like it, but at least he had a plan with the lift every voice. I gotta see action first, so I'm not saying that plan is perfect, But if he gets a team together that can help us with that, that'll be cool. And then I like too that he plans, like every politician has a plan, but he plans to bring back the affordable health care. And I think that's big for our senior citizens. As I get up in age, I'm like 30 now. As I get up in age, all right. But as I get up in age, you know what I'm saying? Like I saw so many people when the affordable health care was taken that a lot of older people just cried because they didn't know where they were going to get their Medicare and health from. And now with COVID, we don't even have enough, machines to help out with people. We don't have enough PPE for our healthcare workers. So if they can bring that back, and he did promise to get some more PPE for our healthcare workers, just those little things that I could find, because Trump just gonna do what he wants to do. You know what I'm saying? And that, he showed it. Right. If he don't like you, he treated like the apprentice. You were fired. And he moved on.
He doing that right now. I couldn't believe it. PP firing right now just this week. Go ahead, Ron.
I mean, it's the truth. I'm not a big fan of Biden. I'll be honest. I was actually more in tune with Bernie. I liked some of the stuff he was saying. I liked some of this stuff. So it kind of hurt me when he withdrew.
Right.
But I understood why. So Biden was a strong candidate. To me, I'm waiting. I don't care about promises. I hear people make promises every day. I really want to see what he's actually going to do. Because like I said, I know there's a change of authority, but to me, it still seems like the power structure is old white man.
Right.
Right.
So this is another old white man in power. I don't know what he's going to do. They made promises to slaves. I mean, then they got here and it was a different story. There's always been promises. We're going to do this and we're going to do that. But a lot of times promises do nothing. It's the pressure that truly causes change to happen.
Yeah. And I'll say this, and it's on wax. I'm going to give the orange guy a little credit here, okay? For one thing, when he wanted something, and rather the Senate or the Congress or the powers, the powers that be didn't allow him to have it, he found every resource, every law, every loophole to get what he needed to get done to circumvent the system, the checks and balances that we have to govern this type of thing. So if he can use his resources for bad, then Biden and Kamala needs to come out and use those same type of resources and energy for good. Because he found loopholes that people were saying this hasn't been used in over 100 years, and he's used it, for when he wanted to get the wall built. So he found ways to circumvent the system. And I think if they go into it, I really don't want to hear this time, as much as I loved Obama, we always gave Obama the escape clause of he just didn't have the people backing him to get his agenda across. Now that I see Trump get in office, and he didn't care if he was a one-man band. He was going to make it happen if that's something that he truly wanted to happen. So I hope that they can, although it was bad, that they can take some of these type of ideas and these, think outside the box a little bit and try to do this. And for me, it's more about, okay, Kamala, you're there now. You're in office. Another thing I had with Obama was, my agenda. You know what ails me. You know what ails my community. Education, poverty, crime. Those things ails my community. And you're from a part of that community. So put forth that agenda. You think about Clayton County. What made you get to where you are? It wasn't predominantly white folks that got you there. It was predominantly black folks. So if they can have our interests and succeed within the time frames of this 4 years, because it's a lot of mess they got to clean up before they even get to their own agenda. So, but if they can physically prison reform, police reform, just free meals for kids, period. Different things that we know that ails our community. Try to eradicate redlining. Spread the tax, what Gio spoke about, spread the taxation, property taxes that fund schools and these type of things. Spread that wealth across the board. Just put it all in one pool and spread it across all across the board. Those are the type of things that if they can get those type of things going, and we know I'm asking for a lot, but if their train of thought and direction is that way, I think we, people that look like us, would be appreciative of what they're trying to do in their efforts. So
You sounding like you read my book.
I listened to it, brother. I listened to it. You got that, huh?
I appreciate that. Right, brother. There's some things that have been passed down from generation to generation that we have to crush.
Right.
Redlining is one of them. Those old racist practices that are still in play today, we have to get rid of.
Right. And it's hitting, and it's like it's the same thing, but they just changed the name, and
Absolutely.
we have to look at it and eradicate these things. And I think,
this is where those tax dollars come in. This is where those tax dollars come in.
Yeah.
So for example, here in Illinois, there is a program for minority business owners to be able to come and get funding to be able to get past. So a great example is cannabis. Cannabis, because it was illegal, because it was so risky, because it was so high stakes, you literally had to have millions of dollars liquid to be able to play, right? And so, I know you guys are going to be shocked by this, but turns out that only white men have that kind of money. And so it was only white men that had these cannabis businesses and are making millions of dollars off of these businesses. And so that was really a really big sticking point to say, like, no, we can't have it this way. We need to be able to allow for minorities to be able to come into this space and also be able to benefit from this space, because we do have we have a load of minorities who can make a wicked brownie, so they should be able to profit from said brownie without getting arrested and locked up for life. You know what I mean? Like, it's crazy, it's insane. And so this is where this is where those tax dollars come in, because that money that those small business owners are being given, that's taxpayer money.
Right. And so that leads me into my next question. And this has always happened throughout history. When we had the crisis in '88, the housing crisis, they bailed out the banks. When the airline industry had their crisis, we bailed out the health. We bailed out the auto industry. We bailed out the airlines. Big business government seems to bail out big business. Now we're in this COVID area, right? And we're in this COVID era right now. And me and Gio and I went back and forth on this for about 2 hours on Saturday, talking about this. And my stance on it is, I could care less if your business dies. I could really care less if your business dies. And here's why. If we talked about it, business trickles down. So if you have a pool of money that can support your business, it's going to support me, and it goes down. So if your business, if whatever we're going through, socially, economically, physically wise, health wise, if your business has to perish, it has to perish, and something else will blossom from it, right? Well, just like she spoke of marijuana, it was illegal. Don't say no to drugs in the 80s, but now here's this change of guard, and now it's not taboo anymore. And now they're making all these profits from it, and now they're giving us again little trinkets of it. Now, okay, now we cornered the market. Now you can get in where you fit in. Where do you guys feel on that aspect of how this administration can kind of level this playing field a little bit for business and the normal the normal American employee?
My stance is is just open up America. That's my stance on it. Because if you're forcing people to shut down, then you're obligated to pay for them. So if they're willing to take the risk, and if their business failed after, say while staying open, then it is what it is. But if you force them to shut down their business for X amount of weeks, months, or whatever, for whatever reason, without hard data saying that this is going to work and this is going to curve it, because it doesn't matter if we did everything right. It doesn't matter we had an actual procedure that will prevent it or slow down COVID, Americans gonna do what Americans do, and they're gonna do whatever the hell they want. So at this point, you just might as well just let them. Hey, you want to open your business? Go ahead. You know what I'm saying? You want to go out there? You know what I'm saying? Go ahead. It seems to be COVID is only convenient when they want it to be convenient. Like when Biden won, so many people rushed the street. You know what I'm saying? Notre Dame beat Clemson. You know what I'm saying? All of a sudden, COVID doesn't exist.
They were wearing their masks.
Thank you.
First of all, don't. First of all,
conspiracies right here.
The mask doesn't work. Like, these are two examples why the mask doesn't work.
It's not foolproof. Nobody ever said it was foolproof.
No, it doesn't work at all.
They're just saying don't be breathing in other people's spaces. That's what they were saying. And if you were like in a space where you're like all up on somebody, you know, have a barrier. You know, condoms are not 100%. Geo, condoms are not 100%.
The masks don't work at all.
You know, it helps a lot.
No, the masks don't work. No, the masks don't work at all.
You're scamming the master here.
No, the masks don't work at all. For the fact is, like, you go to a restaurant, you got to wear your mask. If you go to the restroom in that restaurant, you got to wear your mask. But if you're sitting down at the table, all of a sudden, COVID's not going to attack you. You know what I'm saying? And the worst place to have the mask on is in an airplane. You're in the average flight is like 3 hours. You got to wear a mask, right? But while you're on there, you can take your mask off, whatever. It doesn't matter. If one person has COVID on that plane, everybody has COVID because they recycle the air. It's not like they're putting some kind of filter in there that's going to kill COVID on contact. So it's like certain situations, the mask is just an annoyance, serves no purpose.
I thought you were supposed to. I'm pretty sure that they said that you're supposed to keep your mask on the whole time.
No, nobody keeps their mask on.
No one does.
No one keeps
You're
it.
supposed to.
But how are you going to keep your mask on the whole time if they're giving you food and drinks?
But again, Gio, you gotta understand, you chose to take that flight. You could have easily got in your car and drove. So if you got COVID because of that, you chose to take that flight.
No, I'm saying I shouldn't wear my mask on the flight because it's pointless. That's what I'm arguing.
Decided to get you know what?
Yeah, I took the risk.
Exactly. Yeah. So
I agree with him on some aspects. As far as the business portion, I'm a very laissez-faire type of individual when it comes to government and their hands-on business. I feel like government should stay out of business affairs. But as he said, if you're going to tell me I cannot conduct business, then you may need to help out a little bit. I know I suffered tremendously this year because of shutdowns, like many people did, many entrepreneurs. If I cannot have events, if I cannot go forward with services, church, whatever the case may be, you are limiting our income. You're basically cutting off all the income we had. So now we can't afford to pay our employees. We can't afford to pay for anything. We still have expenses. Like a lot of people, you have rent, you have mortgage, you have all this stuff. And then as a business, you also have rent, you have other things that you have to pay. If you tell me I cannot conduct business for whatever reason, help me out.
Y'all know where that bailout money comes from, right?
Taxes.
That's a
very important part of this.
You gotta do them. You gotta do it.
But,
That's the difference, though. That's what I look at. But as a business person, you're taking a lot of my money, but then when it comes down to me needing it, I can't access it. So when we got all this bailout and stimulus money, if you look at where that stimulus money went, it went to a lot of big business.
I agree with you. I agree with you there. And that was disgusting. There's no other word for it. It was absolutely disgusting, and it's a failure of the administration.
Right.
And
exactly.
Should have went to small business.
Because you had executives that were through the COVID era that were getting retirement, that were getting pensions and getting bonuses to retire during the era where you have people that went for that same company that was getting laid off. So that's why for me, there's a red line for me with these big corporations. If you cannot sustain, you need to perish, because what's going to happen is there will be somebody with a great idea. There will be somebody with a better innovation to actually sustain, to pick up that business that you lost. So, Ron, where do you stand on this big business thing? How do you think this administration can give some kind of balance to this?
Honestly, I really don't think, and I hope I'm wrong, I don't think much is going to change, because we understand this is a capitalistic society. We understand how important big business is to America. If you look at the richest of the richest and compare their wealth to the government budgets and the amount of money the governments have, a lot of these people have the same amount of money. Look at the Rothschilds. Look at some of these wealthy families. They're the ones that are really running this country. It's not the person that we elect. It's the people with the money. So they're not going to really change big business too much. They can't.
Right.
So that's why I was saying earlier, a lot of our tax dollars, they don't come back to people like us. They don't come back to the small businessman. They don't come back to the minority. They'll put a few minority funded programs together, but still cherry pick who gets those things as well. And that's what I've seen happening across this country. But as we were speaking earlier, you have a lot of businesses that get tax breaks to come into cities because they see how they benefit those cities. It does hurt some people, but then you have to look at industries that went under, like the car industry, and look what happened to Detroit. Look what happens to cities that lose those big industries and big businesses. They get decimated. Where I'm from, Thomaston, Georgia, we were really big on textiles. The mills ran that whole city. Everybody worked at the mills. When the mills closed, it became a ghost town. Nobody got houses back. They're just empty now. And then they become crack houses because people that sell drugs and do drugs just end up taking them over. And the local government does nothing to truly come in and clean those places up.
Right.
So they end up hurting our community even more. So that's why I was kind of asking those questions, because what I've seen, when big businesses really do fail, it really has a great impact on us. And then when we don't have a government that comes to help heal. So that is one thing that I heard Biden say. It's time for us to heal. And I'm all the way with that. We've been hurt so much these last 4 years. We've been hurt longer than that, but we've had so much destruction take place that we really have to heal as a nation. We see that there's still 50% of this country that are still Trump supporters. So it's not like racism is dying. It's not like it's going anywhere, but we might push it back into that corner long enough to allow some type of healing to take place and allow some issues to come out without people yelling at one another, but to actually have a conversation again. That's what I'm hoping to see. But as far as big business, I mean,
so that's, I mean, you made all of the points against big business. And I mean, the one of the core tenets of finance is diversification. If you put all your eggs in one basket and it gets too hot and those eggs pop, then you're left with nothing. You know, and so when, you know, every time we've had giants, corporate giants, you know, our economy falls. And that's what happens. And, you know, that's why they had to bail out the banks, because if the banks went under, like legit went under, we would be back in the Depression, like the Great Depression.
Yeah,
and
but I don't mean to cut you off, but you know, and I worked during that crisis. I worked in that industry, and the rampant fraud that I witnessed in this industry, it was like that was part of Obama. If we let you in this door, you gotta kind of get us out this mess. You know what I'm saying? So again, it helped them. Now he bailed out the banks, then he bailed out the auto industry, but Detroit still got decimated, right? It still went under. But the Ford Motor Company, GMC, all these people walked away with bags full of money, but the people that actually made those companies go and grow, they still got decimated. Yep. So those are the things that I want to see that really, for us, like you say, you want the community, you want us to heal. Then where does the healing start? Does it start from the top, or does it really start from the bottom? And that's where does he start from, Gio?
For me to be a supporter, I need a real, not a fake, like, you know, the Obamacare was just a fake healthcare plan to keep people quiet. I need a real prison reform. I need a real prison reform. You wrote the crime bill, so you know how to write prison reform, and you got Vice President Harris, you know what I'm saying? and she got a lot of education in the
Right.
law.
So that's their wheelhouse.
Yeah, that's your expertise. So I don't want to hear no excuses. I just
Right.
want a real prison reform. Like Oregon passed something about like small amounts of any type of drug is not a criminal offense or whatever, whatnot. So does that mean everybody that's locked up right now for heroin, weed, cocaine, whatever, do they automatically be released?
So did that stuff pass in Oregon?
Yeah.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
Yeah, Oregon went crazy. They're just like, hey, do what you want to do.
We're getting long in this hour. I do want to touch on one more thing. I do want each one of us to give 3 things that you want to see come out of this administration. And I'll start with you, Jen.
So out of this administration, I mean, obviously, echoing Ron, healing. We absolutely need to heal this nation. The things that transpired over the past 4 years are insane. We're not just talking about your typical high level, like, oh, immigration and tax. It was across the board. Like, they came in and they threw the books away and they're like, we're just gonna make up what we want to make up and do whatever we want. And so they have a long road ahead of them for sure. And I do appreciate that off the bat, he's like, you know what, I'm your president-elect and I got my people together and the committees are rolling. We have our experts. We're like, all of the, everything's going to be pre-written. And as soon as, January 20 hits, like, they're getting signed, So I'm hoping that they're able to stay on that path and not get distracted by all of this legal nonsense that Trump is trying to pull right now. Another one of my high hopes is that they really allow Kamala Harris to take a distinct role in the administration, to be a leader of different, like you guys said, talking about reform. Let her lead it. Don't undercut her. Don't be like, oh well, Mitch McConnell came like wang to me, so we gotta you gotta take a step back, Kamala. No, let her roll with it. Did I say 2 things or 3 things?
That was 2.
That was 2.
It was a long 2.
I mean, those are they're big ones, and I don't think I need a third one. I think just with those 2, I think that would really pave the way to a much better tomorrow.
Okay, but before we move on, because you're a woman on the panel, what would you like to see for women going forward? Because she is a vice president, she knows our plight as not being just as a minority, but also as a woman. What would you like to see her accomplish as a woman moving forward?
I think a lot of the things she's already been able to accomplish. She's been able to get people talking about her as a human being. She's been able to get people to talk about her because of her, her accomplishments. She's been able to get people to talk about her potential and what she can do in the future, as opposed to every other woman. You have Sarah Palin in a bikini holding a M16 or whatever, and then Hillary Clinton, that's all they ever talked about was like her hair, and it was in her lawyer. The lawyer that was practicing law, that was trying to get a good healthcare plan put through, and all they could talk about was how naggy she was and how like this and that, whatever. So I think just already in the way that she's been able to present herself and been able to have everyone in the country talking about her as a person, as an equal, I mean, that's nuts. It's the first time I've seen it in my lifetime.
Awesome. Ron, what's your 3 things?
I would say healing, unity, and progress. Definitely want to see some progress with our prison system, because even our Constitution states that it's slavery. People were set free except for criminals. So now if you are in prison, you can legally be enslaved essentially and made to work for nearly free. So we need some type of prison reform, because we know our prisons are full of blacks and browns. And that's who they're using to make a lot of things now for companies that are making millions and billions of dollars. They're using free labor.
Smash. What's your 3 things, my brother?
Pretty much what they're saying, the unity. We got to bring that back. And as I said earlier, the affordable health care. And there's one thing that I would like to see him do, and this may be a personal thing, but I would like to see more support for our veterans. I mean, you take kids from cornfields, from urban cities, if you want to use the word urban, and then you place them in these countries to go fight our wars. But then when they come back, there's no support for them. They struggle to get jobs and stuff like that. So just a little bit more support, because we rely on our military for a lot of things that people don't even know that the military is doing. So I would like to see more support for our veterans, because they make up a large population of the homeless environment.
Right.
Gio?
I want to see a flat tax. It's never going to happen, I know.
No, it's not. We put that in the wish column.
Right. Definitely want to see a prison reform. My third thing was, the one thing that Trump did good was making America self-sufficient, and I like to see Biden administration expand on that.
Smash. Any closing words, my brother, before we get up out of here?
Yeah, thanks everybody for coming on and being a part of this, man. And like everybody know, I write stuff down, but one thing, since she's the new vice president, female, the first female vice president, I wanted to use one of her quotes, because it's something that we all kind of said that we wanted to see here. And Kamala said, "Our unity is our strength, and diversity is our power." So I like that, because if we all come together and unite, then that diversity that we all bring will make America really great again. Like I did that.
Oh, really? You can't let that die, Smash. You had to keep that alive.
Make America decent again.
Decent, right? Livable, tolerable. So I want to thank everybody for coming on the panel, and thank you guys for giving your point of views. If you want to follow Ron, where can they find you, brother?
Find me at Author Ron Walker on pretty much every social media platform.
Definitely. And he has books at Amazon. Audible books too.
Black in America.
That's right.
Black in America.
Janira, where can the people find you?
I try not to do social media as much as possible, because I give corporate America enough of my money.
So just give me your address. They come knock on your door. How about that?
But so LatinoResources.com is, or actually no, it's .org. Sorry, it's what the organization that you can find.
Awesome. Gio.
Yep, you know where you can find me at Ballas Union. You know what I'm saying? Representing all ballers in the world. Closing remarks. I actually like my racism straightforward, so I guess the military background in me prefers that, so I can know who my enemies are and know how to move.
So on that note, with that being said, much love, and we out.
Peace.